Hey there, Pursuing Freedom friends. This is your host, Erin Bradley. And today I want to talk about a conversation that I've been having with so many successful realtors and lenders over the last, I don't even know how many years. And what I'm seeing is basically an epidemic in our industry. And it is literally the reason why Pursuing Freedom was born. And it's all around why so many people can achieve levels of success, which what we hear when we hear success is money, right? We find a way to earn money in this industry, and we still feel like something is lacking. And whenever I have this conversation in a room full of people, I will often have people come up to me and say, I feel like you're talking straight to me, like you're speaking straight to my soul. And I'm saying to them, I'm speaking straight from my soul because I've been through this too. So let's unpack this a little bit. In my experience, what I found was I took the leap of faith to go 100% commission, as did you, most likely, if you're listening to this podcast. And in that moment, you were probably filled with some sense of hope and excitement and possibility around what self-employment was going to look like and feel like. It was going to be more time freedom, hopefully more income, right? So more financial freedom, more financial success, more flexibility with your schedule, all these things. But we also, in that moment, we adopted a fear, okay? Because there is uncertainty that comes along with making a big decision like foregoing a steady paycheck in pursuit of this freedom and flexibility. And so in a recent episode, we talked a lot about how freedom has a feeling, right? Like, what are we really after in the achievement of the things we think we want, whether that's more time or more money, is really what we want is peace. We want feelings of ease. We want to be present with our loved ones and be able to say yes to the adventures of life. We want to feel fulfillment. We want to feel relaxed, right? And when I ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your business as it relates to these feelings of freedom? Oftentimes the numbers are quite low. Or what many will find is that they achieve a certain level and they're afraid to go any further because more growth feels like a perception of more sacrifice, more exhaustion, more hard work. And so they get to a place where they sort of plateau and convince themselves that they're fulfilled, even though deep down inside they want more. There's some hesitation or some resistance around more because growth just feels like more effort. And so there's all this stuff that happens with so many of us that have experienced this where we can be honest and say, okay, I've closed a bunch of transactions. I've been at this for a long time. My bottleneck is not really my ability to establish trust with people or to love them or to give great customer service. It's really more to do with the energy and the enthusiasm that starts to feel a little bit suffocated, even when we're perceived by the external world as being successful in our industry, in our craft. So I created a free assessment, and I just want to point this out to you in case you hop off before the end of this episode, that if you go over to pursuingfreedom.com/happiness, you can download a free assessment that will let you really get honest about where are you on the journey towards the freedom that you say you're after, and how much of your daily life and business feels like ease and confidence and peace and satisfaction and everything we really know deep down inside is what we're after. So I want to tell you a little story is that early on, as I mentioned, I took that leap of faith in 2007. And if you've known me for a while, you know that it wasn't pretty. I was not the rookie of the year. It was quite the opposite. And I fell flat on my face. And out of sheer desperation, I hired a coach and I asked my coach, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And so I wanted a playbook. I wanted a strategy. And if you've been in the industry for a while, then you can probably relate to this, right? There was somewhere along the line, there was a trainer or a mentor and they gave you the strategy that was going to be the thing that would solve your problem, which was really the feeling of uncertainty, which is the opposite of the feeling of freedom. And so, out of this uncertainty, this fear, and this insecurity, we start to take action and we execute the plan. And inevitably, as long as you don't quit, these frameworks do work. You will get results. And I'm sure that you have. And if you're newer to the business or you're newer to this podcast, that is the honest truth is that as long as you don't quit, you're not going to go out of business. You're going to keep on powering through and tinkering and trying things and pushing through your comfort zone until eventually things are going to click and you're going to start to have some closings and some income coming in the door. And so that's what I did. For the next several years, from 2008 to 2011, I played the part. I sat at a big mahogany desk in a female suit in a cold calling center where I was given cold leads and I had to have conversations with people I never met about whether they think they should refinance. And it was just all the ick. I mean, I was doing what they told me to do because I wanted to be successful and because I didn't like the way that I felt, which was stressed out, desperate, shameful for my financial situation, and all these things that were propelling me into this action. Okay. Well, inevitably, the closings were happening and I was paying the bills, but there was still something missing. It was the fulfillment factor. Okay. It was the happiness factor. If I'm honest, I wasn't that excited to show up and sit at that desk and talk to strangers and try to sell them on something that my company thought I should try to sell them on. And so, personally, what I started doing was I stopped thinking about them as leads and I started thinking about them as human beings. And because as a mortgage lender, I was able to get their birthdays and other information like their mailing address, I literally started sending cards every single month. I started doing holiday mailers and birthday cards, and I just started nurturing the relationships that I had the opportunity to connect with. Because inevitably, almost everybody, if they were coming in the door as a possible lead, even if they're not going to be a client today, they're probably going to be a client someday. And if I'm there as a trusted resource, being a sincere person who cares about them, whether or not I'm getting a paycheck today or not, then chances are that when the day comes, they're going to trust me enough to use me as their advisor. Okay. So I started building relationships, but I still never satisfied this energy of being trapped. Like, great, I start closing transactions, but then what? It's just back to this grind. And luckily, because of the book The Go Giver and other books like The 7 Levels of Communication and The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents, I started finding approaches that felt more authentic to who I am. And I started modifying the way that I showed up in my business. And so, in essence, I decided to clean up the database. And we talk a lot about this inside of my coaching program as uprooting the garden. Like, if you think about your business as something you're designing as you're coming into 2026, we're recording this episode in early 2026. So many people I've talked to are very excited, very fired up, and they really want to reinvigorate their business. They want to infuse it with authenticity and love and fun, and they want to feel the energy of freedom and peace even before the circumstances have changed, because they understand that their energy, how they feel today and how they show up in the service of others, affects what they ultimately attract, because your energy is truly your currency. And the vibe with which you bring to every interaction is the magnet inside of your business. So if you feel like that energy of, I just feel like I'm trapped on this hamster wheel of mustering up the courage and muscling through the activities so I can get more leads, to get more deals, to get more money, so that someday I can give myself permission to feel good, you're not alone. And you're not crazy either. That's the interesting thing about this is oftentimes I have conversations with clients who are like, I feel like a crazy person. I know what to do. I'm good at it. I've done it for years. I can do it with my eyes closed. And I can't figure out why I don't feel like it. And that's the energy of just kind of being trapped on this hamster wheel. And usually what we end up identifying is that everything you've been doing for as long as you've been doing it started from a place of uncertainty and fear and lack and scarcity and desperation. So even though you've proven yourself plenty, you've proven to yourself that you're good at this, you've proven to the external world that you're good at this, people that know you think you're successful, they literally consider you a successful realtor or a successful mortgage person. But deep down inside, you're feeling this turmoil and thinking, I must be nuts because I'm good at this. Why do I feel this resistance? Why do I not want to do it anymore? And it's because the behavior model was built from an outdated identity. So, what we really need to do is rewrite the programming of your identity so that you can start to behave as the person who gives yourself permission to be at ease, to be rested, to be present and engaged, to be having fun, and to have a business that you actually love again, or maybe for the first time ever. It could be that you've been doing this for 20 years and you're really good at it, but you've never really loved it. I mean, that is the honest to God truth, because that's what I experienced too. I mean, this went on for years, way up, all the way up until 2015. Even after I had hired team members and I was trying to scale my business, which resulted in us doubling the business again, it turns out that the growth strategy isn't to compound more on top of an already overflowing cup. When you reach your max capacity, growth doesn't mean more effort, more sacrifice, more exhaustion. Growth means less. But even after I had learned to subtract and graduate from certain activities and teach other people to do the things that I somehow learned to do, which means that if I can learn it, anybody can learn it, because I'm not that smart. So it's not rocket science, right? We became good at this business because we care. And so when we hire people that we care about, we can teach them how to do it too, just like we learned how to do it. But even then, in 2015, I remember hiring another coach, and he was asking me what was my vision, what were my goals. And I remember feeling very deflated, like the spark had been dim or maybe extinguished for a while. Even though I was surrounded by support, even though I was really good at this, even though I was doing a ton of volume, there was still something missing. And I have this conversation all the time with my clients. They're like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll just do something. I just don't even know if I want to do real estate anymore. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard those words come out of some of the students that are inside my coaching community. And I look at them and I laugh, because I'm like, me too. I remember that feeling too. Because I looked at my coach in 2015 and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I want to, I don't even think I want to do this anymore. Like, I don't see anything more that I could do. And he looks me dead in the eyes and he says, Erin, you need to do less in order to do more. In fact, you need to do a lot less. And so through some energy auditing, I started to really evaluate, how did I wake up in the morning? What was my first thought every day? And what it was, honestly, was anxiety, overconnected, overcommitted, overwhelmed, overloaded, okay, rushing, stressing, striving. I had already accomplished so much, but I didn't feel accomplished. I didn't feel whole. I definitely didn't feel free. And here's the interesting thing about this. I had every reason to feel whole and to feel free. And so do you. That's where this epidemic lies, is that there's never enoughness, this sense of accomplishment, and yet the goalpost keeps moving. I love the book, The Gap and the Gain by Benjamin Hardy. And I think there's a co-author there, but regardless, The Gap and the Gain, he talks about that the achiever in us can accomplish the goal and celebrate temporarily before the new desire shows up in its place. And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. That's the human experience. We are here to expand and grow. But there's also the opportunity to look at how far we've come and experience the emotions that we're after, the feelings of accomplishment and pride of how far we've come, and look at how much we've overcome and how much we've persevered through, and look at the resilience and look at the growth. Look at how that failure didn't define me, and how I learned from it, and how I kept going, and how it got better. Like, there's an opportunity right now to slow down and reflect and remember really who you are deep down inside and what you were after when you started. And then to be a witness that anxious energy, that feeling of I need to do more because my business isn't where I want it to be, or I'm overwhelmed by my business and second guessing if I even want this level of financial abundance, like all of that chatter that happens up inside the head, it's tethered to an identity that we just need to dismantle. And this is the perfect time to do it, because as we come into 2026, this number one year, I'm going to keep talking about it, it is an invitation for us to slow down and ask ourselves, what are we going to leave behind? Because we can't keep dragging along all this outdated, heavy, weighted thoughts and fears and beliefs that have nothing to do with who we are today, that just never have been evaluated, but that continue to drive the bus and propel us into action that isn't in alignment with who we are today. So here's the thing, whether you're new to the business or whether you've been around the block for a while, you've lived enough life to be uniquely equipped to be a resource to people you care about and to have fun doing it. And I know that sounds crazy because we think about fun as something we get to earn after the hard work. That's also outdated. So I just want you to evaluate how much of your day feels like interest and how much of it feels like obligation. You know, I talk a lot inside my community about the version of us that is really the brand and that is the magnet. And it's the version of us that we are with our friends and family when we're not thinking about work, when we're trying not to think about work for once, right? When we're celebrating, when we're mourning, when we're happy and we're sad or we're cheering or we're laughing or we're crying, like that is living. That is the life, the soul within us that is alive and engaged. And then there's the version of us that puts on the work hat, where we try to fit this square peg that is ourself into this round hole that is this concept of what we think we're supposed to do, the heavy lifting, what we should do, what we have to do in order to get so that we can feel. And we disconnect ourselves from the soul right in that moment. And all of a sudden, everything feels like it's outside of ourselves. And that's where the energy of anxious and striving and rushing and overloaded, overcapacity, right? That's where all of that exists. It's outside of us. And that's why when we've been at this for a long time and you've achieved certain levels of success, you feel like a crazy person because something is feeling heavy. Something's not quite right. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's time for you to recognize you're stepping into your next level self. And those outdated thoughts, habits, and behaviors, they can't survive where you're going. And you've already leveled up in your life. So this isn't the first time we've talked about breaking up with an old relationship or quitting a job. You've been in a position at some point in your life where you've been tolerating something for far too long. You know deep down inside, this isn't right. But you try to convince yourself you're fine and you keep going. And then one day you have the audacity, the courage to say, I'm done. And you close that chapter. And the moment that door closes, 10 more open, right? Well, the same thing happens in our business. We're not meant to stay on this Groundhog Day where every day we're supposed to do the same thing we've always done and expect different results. So if you're not feeling fired up when you wake up in the morning, if you don't think that your business feels aligned with who you are, energized, fun, sincere, then it's okay. It just means that you're ready to graduate. You're ready to level up. This is the invitation. You step through door number 2. It feels scary and unfamiliar because you're going into the next version of you. But that means you got to leave door number 1. You got to walk away from what feels safe. And I've said this before, safe means same. Your brain does not like change. Your brain wants you to stay safe and stay the same. But your heart knows you're meant for more. So what do we do from here? Well, first, I hope that this is landing for you and that you're acknowledging that if something's not quite right, you're going to have the courage to make the decision to close the door on that which no longer serves you, to create space for where you're headed and how you're unfolding, where the expansion really lives, which requires you to shed in order to create that space. We can't just keep on adding. So what I like to do is evaluate who are the relationships in your life that are energizers for you. And do you look at your database and think about lead generation and you instantly feel the heaviness, the resistance, the dread, the procrastination? But what if we took all that transactional language out of it? What if we could just honor and appreciate the fact that we are loved, we are surrounded by individuals who love us and support us and who we love back? And if we could take our database and call it a community and start to go through the relationships and check in. When's the last time I talked to them? If I care about them, if they bring a smile to my face, when's the last time I told them that I care about them, that I appreciate them, that I want to be a resource to them? Can I be more intentional? Can I just uproot the garden, pluck the weeds, pluck all the things that I don't feel interested in, and really get selective about the relationships in my life that bring me joy and start to plant them in my garden with intention? And then get a little bit curious, peel back the layers of the onion. What are they going through? What are they interested in? What are some of their goals? What stage of life? What career are they in? Where are they going from here? And what other resources do they need on their journey? Because I'm just one piece of the puzzle, right? And then I can start to get curious, which replaces my insecurity and my resistance. It gets me actually unleashed in a place of love. And my love cannot exist in the same space as my fear. So instead of worrying, what am I going to get out of this, which is my fear speaking up, I can just come from a place of sincerity. I miss you. It's been too long. I haven't talked to you in forever. How the heck are you? It's so much easier this way. And what's wild is when people find my coaching, my community, and then find each other, because it's really not about the Erin Bradley show. That is for sure. When you get into my community, you tap into a network of individuals that are 100% done settling. That doesn't mean it's easy to dismantle the old identity. It just means that they're willing, because the way things are going right now is just unsustainable. They're literally considering leaving their successful career because they feel trapped in it. And so instead, what we do is we go a little bit deeper to find access to that spark within you, because every one of us has it within you. And then we reignite that flame from a place of love and curiosity and sincerity, contribution and value. We get clear on who your people are. And then we start to have a little fun getting creative, because as we cut the fat, stuff that feels heavy, what we get in ROI is our relief, because we're done talking ourselves into doing stuff we don't really enjoy. And so as we stop doing all that heavy stuff, we're like, oh my God, I feel so much better immediately. And as soon as I feel better, what do you think I'm feeling? I'm feeling the exact same energy that I would use to describe freedom. I'm feeling present. I'm feeling a little bit lighter. I'm having a little more fun. I've lightened the load a little bit. And with the relationships that I'm choosing to engage with, I'm kind of excited. I'm going to have fun with this. That energy is like the light coming on within us. We call it curating vacation energy, because when you go on vacation, your phone rings. That's because the light is on. It's because you're excited. It's because you're anticipating, you're planning. It's the one moment you're trying to not think about work. And that's literally what I want for you. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the less we think about your personal agenda and call it work, and the more we lean into the presence, the contribution, the authenticity, I know that those are kind of words that have become cliche, but truly, peace is the path, and it's available to us now. We don't have to earn it someday by more effort, more sacrifice. In fact, the less we do, the better we feel. The more focused we become, the more energized, the more enthused, the more impactful. Because your presence is the gift, and your impact creates the ripple effect, because it's really in the way you make people feel that gets them talking about you at the dinner table and at the sidelines and at the office. It's like they're talking about what an amazing human you are. And I know you are if you've listened this far, because all of us are. Every human being has within them the light, but we suffocate it with all of the should and the have to and the responsibility and the obligation. But guess what? We're just outsourcing our power to somebody else's opinions. And their opinions are expressed through the filter of their own fear and insecurity. Have you ever considered that? So I'm not saying don't go to the trainings and don't get the frameworks. I believe in building a schedule. I believe that my schedule prioritizes my rest, my well-being, my energy management first and foremost, because when I get myself into this state of peace, there's absolute clarity. There's a sense of knowing. There's a tapping into a field of infinite possibilities where my mind gets quiet and stops overanalyzing, stops worrying, stops the self-doubt. And my heart becomes ignited with hope and enthusiasm and excitement. And from there, when my flame is lit and I start to share my light with those that I genuinely want to share it with, who I care about, which includes you if you're listening this far, all of a sudden you start to see everyone's lights come back on. And there's this magic that happens in the proximity of this energy. You cannot escape it. You can't unknow it once you feel it. And the more we practice it, the more we start to remember that it's okay to feel this good. It can be normal to feel this good. That when we feel this good, we're actually better in our service to others. And from this place, everything becomes expansive. It becomes so much better than our logical mind could ever comprehend. Your brain wants to figure it all out, which shuts down the creativity and the access to the infinite possibilities. It limits us. And so, my invitation for you is this: go and look at your community and ask yourself, how much do they know how much you love and appreciate them? Because if that becomes the baseline, and then if joy and fun and contribution become the compass, you will never feel a moment of resistance again, because you'll no longer be living a lie, which means you're going to break free from the trap of this infrastructure, this epidemic of this badge of exhaustion as a trade-off for this word success, which means money. And yet you've already earned the money and you still don't feel what you were really after, which was the freedom that we associate. That's the true feeling of success. I define success as unlimited present moments with the people I care about most, personally and professionally. Does that mean I'm perfect? No, I'm still distracted. I still get overwhelmed. But the difference is I no longer allow myself to live in that state as if it's a requirement. In fact, I use that as the indication that I'm going off the rails and I find my way back to center. So when we start to build out the business model that is your business model, it's not a one size fits all. In fact, it's highly customized, because if it's not customized to who you are and you find yourself comparing with what others are doing, you start to outsource that power once again. You outsource that enthusiasm, you outsource your confidence, and it's not the external world's job to deliver you the feelings of freedom that are your birthright. So we reverse engineer this. We get clear on your who, we get clear on your when. Some people are morning people. I get more done between the hours of 4 or 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. than some do between the hours of 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. I'm not a night owl. I'm absolutely dead and I have no creativity or energy in the late afternoon. But in the mornings, watch out, okay? So I design my business and my reflection and my planning around hours where I cannot be interrupted, I cannot be distracted, and I get hours to turn my light on. So by the time I interact with the external world, by the time I have a conversation with somebody, I'm already so fired up and ready to go that I feel unstoppable. Not because I needed external evidence to give myself permission to feel that good, but because I prioritize it, like putting the oxygen mask on first. You are the most important part of your business. And so the goal here is to help you create the business of you, the only business worth building. Now, from there, I want to remind you, just hop over to pursuingfreedom.com/happiness. And I want you to take the assessment, because I'll tell you right now that if I had answered these questions back in 2015, before I made a decision, when I had that one conversation with that one mentor of mine who called me out, from that point forward, there was no turning back. There was no more tolerating, no more settling. It didn't mean it was easy. I started to invest in myself and in my business in whatever capacity was necessary until I found my way to what freedom looks like and feels like inside of a thriving business. And what's crazy is that the less hours I found myself efforting, stressing, exhausting, the more expansion I experienced in my business. By the time I retired my license, I was doing quadruple the amount of volume, not alone, but with the support of an incredible team. And I couldn't have gotten there without them, and I wouldn't have wanted to get there without them. And I saw how this business changed lives. This business can improve lives. It can improve your life, your team members' lives, your clients' lives, your family's lives, and it can also suffocate us. So if you've been feeling trapped, you do not have to continue to survive it, suck it up, or settle. This is not the end of the road. This is just the beginning. This is the day you say goodbye to all of that. And you stop making excuses and you start getting curious. But you've got to decide. You have to have the audacity to bet on your future self before you have all those dots connected. But I know that if you talked to me in 2015 and I went through this and I asked questions like, I wake up feeling energized and excited about my day. No, I did not. I woke up anxious, overwhelmed, stressed out, exhausted. I feel present with my loved ones, not distracted by work. Nope, that would have been a 0. I was always distracted, always preoccupied. Even physically in the same room with you, I was mentally somewhere else. My income feels consistent and reliable. Nope. Not until after I got into the room and I started investing at a high level to have the mentors and the community to help me through the tough decisions and even the tough conversations that need to be had until I could build a system, a true system that created reliable and consistent income with less effort and less exhaustion than ever. My business supports my lifestyle rather than running my life. No, my business was like the whale in the bathtub. My life was just squished in around the edges. I worked through all my vacations. If you're following, if you're tracking with this, just check out this assessment, be honest with yourself. And if your fulfillment and happiness meter is feeling low, the good news is it doesn't have to be permanent. This is the time. It is now or never. It is your moment, your point of no return. And it is so much fun to do it this way, you guys. Like two different frequencies to the same destination. This isn't about compromising the expansion or the financial growth or the financial freedom. It's about amplifying it, but doing it with more time, more freedom, and more joy than you could ever imagine. So if that feels like something you're called to, check out the assessment. And if you're ready to dive in with the community, hop over to pursuingfreedom.com/collective and just jump in and join us. You've got nothing to lose. It's a very small investment for a lifetime of fulfillment and joy and happiness and connection and expansion. And it is so magnetic and so contagious. And it is the room where the growth is happening. And I want you to be a part of it. So please connect with me if you have questions. I love hopping on a call. I love to meet you. This is so much fun. And 2026 is going to be hands down the best year of all of our lives, should we choose to say yes to the future self that we feel called to be. All right, you friends, I love you so much. If you've not yet stopped what you're doing and left a review wherever you're consuming this, on the Apple podcast, if you scroll down, you'll see a rating of 5 stars. And then there's a little pencil where you can leave your review. So if you're finding value from this podcast, I would implore you to please leave a review because it really does help this podcast continue to get found. It helps us attract amazing guests and it helps more people access this content, this concept that we can build a life we don't need a vacation from. And if not now, when, right? That's always the motto. So I love you guys so much. I love being with you on the show and in real life. So I hope to connect with you soon. Make it a great day, and I'll see you next time.